My name is Brian Curtis. I'm the founder of Decentralized Systems, and I've got Eduardo Munoz here with me from EV Share. Is that correct?
Well, AV Share and Bravo Motor Company, yes,
Okay.
both.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. I was just talking to you a little bit ago about just your company. Can you start again a little bit earlier from where we first started and just talk about the problems you guys are facing and the pollution and that we're trying to solve in third world countries and basically everywhere. I mean, we run into pollution a lot here, especially this time of year when the heat goes up. If we have a bad fire year, you can't even breathe outside in the Northwest. We've got so many fires, and fires are just one part of the pollution problem. But when you get into bigger cities, I think that's what you were referring to mostly, or bigger cities where you've got a lot of carbon gas emissions, but it's more the pollution more than just the carbon footprint, correct?
Yeah. The, the problem regarding air quality is it was bad, but when you have fire season, it's worst, right?
Right.
So in California, for example, our cities became the most polluted cities in the country because of fires in the last years.
Right.
And they were already bad. Not excuses on that.
Right.
But the fires make that worse. I mean, it makes it difficult to breathe, even for people with healthy people without respiratory problems.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, well, obviously, and all of this is a result of how we decided to get our society forward the last century or a little bit more, maybe.
Right.
Uh, Obviously, the internal combustion motor brought us to a certain point time ago, and I don't think it's a technology that will take us where we need to be in years to come, right? So I guess we need to rethink the way we move at least people, goods, and energy in the cities, and how we generate and how we manage those.
And so the best technology right now that we have is just kind of lithium battery technology for just avoiding emissions.
For avoiding emissions, yes. Maybe obviously when you're talking about storing huge amounts of energy in a located place, maybe other technologies or other systems will come up as an option. But all of them are in R&D right now. So what
Right.
we really have that's consistent and to be able to be used now is lithium batteries. And well, we're struggling with the quantity of batteries we need and the quantity of batteries we are able to manufacture.
Right.
So
I worked in the Pacific Northwest for the last 10 or 15 years, and the way they store energy mostly is just dams, right? You just got really big reservoirs behind dams, and then during certain parts of the season they do their best to try and retain as much water as possible for later in the year so that they can that's the biggest energy storage device I think that we have in the Northwest. They've considered actually even pumping water into reservoirs just for to produce power later, but that uses so much energy that it's really not that efficient. So it's yeah.
yes, and the problem is even worse than that, because even if we use that as a way of storing energy, that doesn't solve the problem, which is related to the transmission lines and the distribution lines that are already underserving us. So
Yeah.
the problem is, and it's good that we're talking about decentralizing here, right?
Exactly.
The only way of solving this is decentralizing the energy sector,
Right.
uh, generating where energy is used, generating in every roof, every infrastructure, every space we have in the city,
Right.
and storing that in a way that we can use it when efficient, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we've been talking about microgrids and stuff for a while already. 3 years ago, together with a group we formed in California, we created a project that was to create the first advanced energy community, right?
Oh, okay.
And that was putting solar roofs, energy storage systems in the homes, EV chargers and shared electric vehicles as a way of, transforming our reality related to energy and mobility. And we were supported by California government to do so. That is under execution now. Our company is doing now 8 of those projects in a larger scale in Brazil. So EV Share side is a non-for-profit for us. It's an organization that is a blockchain organization.
Okay.
The north of the organization is augmented transparency. So what we understand is we need an augmented transparency to bring trust levels to the point in which the different actors of society can make this decentralization happen.
All right.
Right.
Yeah, and I'll share with you, my thoughts. And the reason that I got into this business, as far as what I'm doing, is because I saw a lot of groups that had the potential of raising our level of technology up higher, but it was always being restricted by the fact that it was really hard to get information through larger groups when you had to constantly bend the ears of decision makers, and
Yeah,
you're
the
constantly
secrecy. I mean, when you that's the reason we created EV Share as a foundation.
okay.
Because secrecy, and looking for maximization of income, those were the things that were limiting, the open mind thinking about how to solve the problem.
Exactly.
So at the end, what we did is, okay, if we on Bravo Motor Company side develop batteries and battery packs, electric vehicles, and energy storage systems, we can give up, the business on the community integration of this technology, so people can make a good use of it. And we did. So that's the reason our blockchain organization is not a for-profit, but it's a non-for-profit organization that manages smart contracts to bring augmented transparency to the mobility and the energy sector.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I've always been open up to new ideas also, and I've even thought about implementing this other decentralized process that I came up with to the coin, and creating a not-for-profit coin that kind of uses the same process. Because I don't know if you're aware, but a lot of the newer decentralized coins are still having the problem where the most people with the most wallets are still controlling the voting rights of that coin, right? If you've got, let's say you just buy 3 Bitcoin and spread it out between 1 million wallets, you still have all the voting rights. And so in order to bypass that process, you kind of have to put another process on top of it to make sure that everyone has equal voting rights and everybody's heard, and you're all working together as a group organically, right, to move ideas.
Yeah. In our case, when we thought about that, in order to be able to vote, you need to be a user of the services.
Sure.
So at the end, everybody that can vote is somebody that is traveling in these vehicles or contributing with solar energy or storing energy in some of the community systems.
Right.
So you can't vote just because you have tokens in your wallet. You need to be a user, right? Because if not, you have that problem, which is people with more money buy a bunch of tokens and have a majority right of voting against those that are using the system. So
yeah, and people just have
case,
AI take care of it for
way.
them. They don't even do it, right? They just have AI bots, purchase stuff and then just get into the system and just raise havoc with the system.
Correct. So that was something that we were very worried about. And at the end, what we created is an ecosystem that solves people's problems, right? By people, decisions. And daily use stuff. That's the other thing that in blockchain world we had difficulties up to now, which is bringing technologies and systems and smart contracts that really solve people's problem on daily basis.
Right.
Usage. So in our case, what we're doing is creating fleets of electric vehicles with EV chargers and solar installations that interact in an ecosystem that serves the community in a daily basis. Right. So energy and mobility and transportation of goods. Those are things that we use every day, all day. And that's the reason we thought that actually bringing blockchain as a technology to solve the dark sides of these
All
ecosystems
right.
would be a good way of going.
Yeah, I believe, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And I see, the world we're going through, it doesn't matter which country you're talking about, whether it's the US or Brazil or any country, everybody's feeling a really heavy constriction right now. Even in my groups of other people where I talk to other software developers all the time, there's just a big constriction everywhere right now. But that always gives the biggest opportunities for growth, right? Always, the best ideas and the best innovations come when everything gets constricted and we all, we can figure out best ways to move forward. Because obviously the ways that are working now aren't really working very well if we're under a big constriction. So, I'm always excited to connect with people like you or anybody that just wants to move forward and create better innovative ideas, to just create better technologies and better ways of making decisions, because the decisions we've been making are very poor as a society.
Well, mainly because we've been centralizing power,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And in all senses. I mean, when you, today I was having a discussion with the city close by, and we're working with them to make a urbanization that was occupied by low income people, and the owner of the land is the city, and well, there's a mess there, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
I prefer to see opportunity in mess,
Oh
right?
yeah, there always is.
So what I was showing to the city is, well, here we had two choices: or we leave this to go its own way, and it's going to be bad, or we can use this as an opportunity of making it right. So making it right is, why don't we allow them to generate their own energy and then sell it to their neighbor if they are using less energy than they produce, or maybe make these homes in a way that they use very little energy. We finance this with a maybe zero interest rate,
Right.
right? And let them, have a home that takes from their budget energy and gas, propane. And if you take that from low-income people, you're taking maybe 30% of their budget out.
Right.
So those people are already 30% richer just
Well,
by
yeah, and when
bringing.
you're dealing with pennies, everything means a lot.
That means maybe they will eat better.
Right.
Maybe their son will have a correct nutrition, and he will be able to grow and think and be intelligent and study. I mean, sometimes we are so looking to our own inside so much that we don't see what the needs of the other is. And in our case, we've been, working hard to bring this equality somehow by decentralizing power, by letting people, it's very powerful when you think today we all need to pay a bill to somebody that is buying energy from somebody else that is generating energy so far away, and maybe 60-70% of that energy is lost in the meantime,
Right.
just in the way, just in the transportation, just because of we are doing that for so many years. And maybe back in time it made sense, but today with the technology we have, it doesn't make sense.
Well, yeah, there's so many people in so many areas. There's no reason why you should have to send power 1,000 miles, right?
Yeah, and then you need to move. So you go with your motorcycle or your car to a gas station, and you put some liquid there that has been extracted somewhere in the world, and then made a refinery, and then transported to put it inside your vehicle. And you need to go there and pay money to somebody that did all that work, and that maybe was good 100 years ago,
Cost
or
efficiency is
50 years
everything.
ago.
Yeah.
But if today we can generate energy in our roof, we can store energy when you are not using it, and then we can put it into a car or into a vehicle, into whatever, and move with that energy. How independent you are regarding your decisions, your
Uh,
decision taking.
I agree
Uh,
100%. I'm all for communities being able to be completely self-sufficient because I believe if a community is really working together like they should in a decentralized way, you can come up with any solution for anything and you don't need to rely on anybody else. You can.
yeah, I agree with that, but also, traveling around the world, we've been in the crypto community for a while, since maybe 2015, 14.
Okay.
And traveling around the world, what we find out is this new world, there's very people that understands it.
Right.
And there are so many tools that need to be integrated for this to happen, and nobody not even understand one of the tools, less being able to understand them all and how to integrate them. And that's the reason we created Ivishare. It's exactly for that. Now we have cities that are coming to us and ask us to help them change their reality. And that's maybe
Education's
you
everything.
asked me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going in that direction. So one of the things you are able to change when you are in control of your decision taking is having communications, right? Connectivity.
Exactly.
And if you have access to connectivity, you have access to education today. So what is going to prevent us from hiring the best professor in whatever the best university in the world is to give a class to 1 million people or 2 million people at once,
Right.
right? Obviously, we will only do that. No, for sure not. You need somebody that will be a tutorial or whatever in a more 1 to 15 people or whatever. But if you can do that after having a master class from somebody that is very good, and now can teach a bunch of people at the same time. And if those people pay pennies, the guy is still rich, right?
Right.
So I'm very I've been always very optimistic, and our group is formed by optimistic people. Uh, in days of war and intense climate change events and everything is, when you turn up TV, everything looks very dark. But we are living a very unique moment in humanity.
I
We
believe
have,
that a lot of that stuff is going to go by the wayside, and the people that really care about, making a difference in their community are actually going to come forth, and we'll build the kind of world that we want to live in, right? We don't want to live in a world where everybody keeps fighting. We just got to keep moving forward. And, like you said, we live in a world for communication. It was always my belief, and I believe this is true, is if the more people you can get an idea to, the more it's going to spark a better idea in somebody else, and you can perfect ideas moving forward. And if we can create more connectivity and hear more people's ideas from more cultures, I think that's just the best possible scenario.
yeah, we've been living in the last years, maybe with some comebacks, right? Supremacist and radicalist thing, and we haven't been, you know, looking to those type of things for decades, and suddenly they appear from somewhere, obviously promoted by some groups.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
somebody's promoting something because if you can
but
separate two
I,
people, you can make money that way, right? And that's their
yeah, but
thought
I
process.
guess, that is bad because it's disgusting.
It is
But
disgusting.
at the same time, motivates good people to do good things and stand up. And that's that. What my hope is that we use this as the energy we need to change things faster. You creating systems that prevent this type of things happening. Creating transparency to prevent corruption. Uh, I think we have the tools today to create a very better world than we have today, and the years to come, technology will be ramping up in a way that we will be able to solve many problems that look very difficult to solve today.
Oh yeah.
But we need to start working on setting basis, right? It's setting what the rules are to make this happen.
Yeah, I think it's just community leaders need to make sure that we start moving in the decentralized direction in all aspects of society. Because, as long as we get decentralized, you can't have special interest groups, steer certain parts of groups in the direction they want to go. As long as you keep decentralized, and just letting everybody work as far as, and organically understanding each other. I think that is the best possible scenario. I think that's the only
Yeah,
direction we really
I
go.
I agree, but as we discussed earlier, we need transparency
Oh, exactly.
in order to bring this type of things going on. We need transparency. We need accountability. People need to understand that doing good things will bring good things, but doing bad things will also bring bad things.
Bring bad things.
Uh,
I think we're seeing bad things bring bad things now, right?
Well, yeah, but what we're seeing is the bad things happening, not always who made the bad things. So this is happening,
Sure. Yeah,
right?
it's not
So
really
that's
transparent as who started that problem, right?
exactly that's what I was talking about. Accountability.
Okay.
We need that. We need transparency and accountability. We need responsibility of the acts, right? Um, Obviously, maybe blockchain is not the perfect technology for that,
Sure.
but it's the very best tool we have today. So let's use what we have and build what the next technology is, if there's something better.
Right.
Uh, but we need to start from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
I always see. I was, this week's having a discussion with people in the blockchain space, and I remember being in a bar at the end of blockchain week in New York in 2019, and where all this 8K golden balloons,
Right.
right? Everybody happy because of Bitcoin reaching 8,000. After being in 20,000 earlier and going back down to under 2,000 later.
Yeah, I remember
So
that trend.
so then we were in 8K again, and now we are in 20K after being 80, right? And but if you read what the conventional part of the financial system talks is, they need to be regulated, they need to be this, they need to
Oh
be
yeah.
that, because of the loss of value they had. Wow, it's almost 3 times what it was 3 years ago. What
They're
is the
just
loss
trying
of
to
value?
push centralized control on something that's decentralized, right? I mean, it's an
Yeah.
obvious play, but as long as people know what they're doing and why they're doing it, it'll never work. The actual product is much better if it's decentralized. So we have to stay decentralized to keep moving forward.
Yeah, but again, I'm in a certain time of the movement. The word decentralized was so common that everybody was using it, right? It was decentralization of whatever, right? Of
Right.
casinos, right?
Right.
Everything was decentralized, right?
Right.
Uh, so I guess our job right now is, after there was a good clean out, right, of the space. What was good survived. What wasn't disappeared, right? And
Right.
now we have a new wave of things that maybe won't work. But I guess that we need to give a new meaning of decentralization. I mean, a new statement for what decentralized is, and how important that is. Because at the end, it's giving the right to people first to have access to information, because you can't decentralize without giving the correct information, or at least all the information, so they can decide which is the correct one.
Yeah, and
And
I
then
always thought that
obviously,
groups should decide what's valid and what's not anyway. It shouldn't
yeah,
be somebody standing over here. It should be everybody working as a group and saying, well, this is what we as a majority believe is what's valid, but that's not what we're being sold, right? Everything that we're being transmitted on, it doesn't matter whether it's TV, newspaper, it's always, a very small group's opinion of what they think is valid. And then everybody has to talk in the background. Oh, we don't think that's valid, but nobody's being heard in that direction, right? The majority of the group isn't being heard and saying, well, obviously everything that we're being sold isn't really valid, but how do we move forward and say, how do we get to a place where we are just, as a group deciding what is valid? And that's, I mean, that's the whole reason behind the project I started. You know, you have to decentralize information and decisions at the same time, or else if you just take one and you decentralize communication, well, if you still have all these people over here making decisions, then it's not decentralized, right? It's still central. We still have centralized power. We've been talking
Yeah.
about decentralization for 12 years, and we're doing it in currency, but we're not doing it into our decisions. You know, you have to move into the decisions for your society and make it decentralized, or else you're still structured in that pyramid where you've got the top portion keeping all the information and they're not letting all the valid information go to the bottom part.
Yeah, I guess one of the biggest challenges is we have a bunch of data, right?
Exactly.
But we don't have so much information,
Right.
right? We need to find ways of classifying all that data so we can actually have information, right? And making that in a decentralized way, maybe, but in a validated way. Because at the end, we can't say that we decentralize anything if we don't give the tools for people to take the correct decisions,
Right.
right? We can give them the right of voting in a click, but if we fool them with incorrect data, we're misinforming, right? No,
Right.
we are not giving them information, so they are not just actually voting; they are just following a wrong path.
Yeah, they're just making a decision based on an old system that's not working, you know.
Well, basically, it's around that, right? So at this point, what we have is a bunch of technology that can lead us to the correct way, but we have a bunch of legislation that prevents us from going in that direction.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I think that the world is probably going, this is my own personal opinion, but I believe the world's there's gonna be a split. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to start moving in one direction where they're decentralizing their decisions, their communication, but they're going to have to split from the old world. And people that want to stick
uh,
with the old systems are just,
yeah,
you know, I mean,
that's starting to happen actually. There's some gated communities, for example, that they have only 1 meter at the door,
sure.
right? And they have their own microgrid, their own virtual power plant inside. If they do that in an open community, will be public space, they wouldn't be able because legislation would forbid them to
All
do
right.
that, right? So, but at the end is if we are able to measure how much energy I inject to a grid, why wouldn't they allow us to, through a smart contract, to register the selling and the buying of this energy between us,
Right.
right? Um, I understand that when the technology wasn't there, but the technology today is there, right? So why wouldn't they allow us to do that? Well, that legislation is changing in a very slow, right?
Right.
But changing. And today we start to talk about decentralized energy, not the correct decentralization, right? Which is creating smaller solar parks to sell it in an open market to somebody.
Right.
But we still need to, go in the direction of community after community, allowing people to produce energy, save energy, because there's one reason there's no if you cover your own usage, or you use energy, but there's no incentive to actually save energy to sell excess energy to somebody else. We don't even, I mean, in a bigger portion of the society, they don't even know that they can do that.
Right. Oh,
And
yeah.
uh,
It's
who
pretty
knows?
common.
Who knows that 70% of the energy that enters into a conventional building is lost because of inefficiencies of the building? Nobody knows. I mean, the groups like us that are researching this and working on this for the last 11, 12 years, obviously we know,
Right.
but the general public doesn't know. So, it's said in the Bible, right? It's the lack of information or the lack of knowledge what kills my people, right?
Right.
It's and that has been like that forever. and
I
it's
believe
to
we are moving
continue.
into an age of knowledge, though. I think knowledge is starting to explode, and it's going to, as long as we keep moving in the direction of decentralization, so that small groups can't control information, then the age of knowledge will progress, right? As long as we keep connecting in a decentralized way and keep making decisions in a decentralized way, my dream is to see borders come down eventually, because we all will recognize the fact that we're all just one people living on one ball, right? And you get, as soon as you start getting rid of the legislators and you stop centralizing decision making in a border, then the borders move down. Eventually you see that there's no reason to have a border there if you're not centralizing decision making in one spot, right? I mean,
Yeah, well, in the past, we needed to create national, governments because of the need of, having one army, one
sure,
protector, one everything, and it made sense. But the times changed, right? So today, what we're seeing is maybe the power going back to mayors, right? To the governments that are closer to the people.
right. Smaller
uh,
communities.
and and that eventually will go to neighborhoods, right?
Right.
Um,
Well, I
the
think
thing is,
globally, everybody is pretty much in agreement where they just don't want to fight anymore. Right. I mean, if you
well, yeah,
99% of the people out there are not wanting to fight anybody. It's a very small minority, that actually want to raise an army and move from here to there. It's very uncommon.
I agree, but again, it's about, at the end, it's about power, and power is a sickness, right?
Oh,
It's,
definitely.
you know,
Control, power and control. It's
to
definitely,
know somebody, give them some power, right? The thing is understanding how better it is for all of us, and for a better way of living, to share that, you
yeah.
know, to actually create things in a shared way that makes sense.
Well, I enjoyed talking with you. I want to keep sharing my dreams and promoting your dreams too, Eduardo. As long as we can keep the discussion going, I think that, there's solutions between us, and there's solutions between everybody out there that's, looking for the same thing. I know there's a lot more than me and you looking for the exact same thing. So,
Yeah, well, luckily, there's a bunch of companies and people researching and working to create tools that will give us the ability of getting this better and better.
yeah.
We are creating the first battery facility in Latin America, and
In what
and
country?
that is in Brazil.
In Brazil. Okay.
And that is powerful because in a whole region like Latin America, which is huge and one of the biggest markets for mobility, for example, there wasn't even one lithium battery facility planned until 2030, until we came here and worked to make this happen.
Awesome.
So this type of things are, decentralizing power, the access to technology, and bringing, this type of facilities that will also grant the supply of critical materials to Western countries in less depending on, Asian concentrated, supply today. It's also, this balances, brings balance to the weight, and that's the way we should go.
Oh, definitely.
Starting to have balance, because
Self-sufficiency.
we are totally debalanced today, and that's what brings us to war and to the problems we're living.
Yeah, and it's gotten worse in every country. The Asia has taken, because of that, how many more people they have there between India and China, that's half of the world's population just between those two countries. And so, it all gets sucked over there. And if you can't match what they have to offer in other parts of the world, then that balance of power does, start to.
Yeah, well, we put ourselves into that.
Oh,
Uh,
definitely. Yeah.
Remember, early 80s, we started sending all of our facilities to China,
Yeah.
just because there we had people that only that had very little, demand on money, and very cheap salaries. And we didn't care if the people were just, eating or eating very poorly to live. We just wanted to have cheaper goods. So,
Right.
so who puts us into that? It was ourselves. So today we have, for example, in the battery side, we have lithium going out from Latin America to China to be processed under non-controlled production ways. And that lithium is transformed into materials, and those materials into cells that are sent back to the Americas. Isn't better to process
It's
all
an
those
old game.
materials and
They've
create
been
our own
playing that
batteries, man?
game for, ever since, we were picking up cotton, taking it all the way to, Afghanistan, and, then taking opium from Afghanistan, selling it in China. That game has been played for years
You
and
know,
years
I,
and
I
years.
remember having a conversation in the 90s with a French guy that was, making business in Argentina. And he was, collecting uh, this fungus, this pine tree fungus, and for food. And he had a communities that collected that from the woods for him.
Right.
And he was collecting that. I can't remember the exact numbers, but he was collecting that, let's say, for $1 a kilo, and he was selling that for maybe $40 a kilo in Europe. And regardless all the money he was making, he paid very poorly and didn't give conditions to the people that were collecting for him. And I asked him, "Why are you doing that? I mean, wouldn't you be happier if your people are happier and healthier and have a better way of living?" And the answer was, it was impacting myself. I wanted to punch his face after the answer, but it was a reality. What he told me is somebody needs to pay for the way of living we have in Europe. So I
Yeah, you can't
guess,
really blame somebody for, that point of view. It's just what they grew up and understood.
man, with time and being much older right now that I was, I get it. I mean, and the truth is, he was able to do that because in Argentina nobody was giving education and intelligence to those people.
Information is power.
So they actually were able to create their own packaging and packing that and selling them themselves to Europe,
Right.
right? So at the end, he was making his job. Obviously, I don't agree much with that,
Oh,
but
neither do I.
but at the end, if you want to see it in a very objective way, is he was doing his job and somebody wasn't doing his.
Right. And when you
Right.
put yourself in someone's shoes and kind of understand, what they grew up with and, what they've had to deal with, it gets easier to understand where everybody's at. But I think it also gives you easier to understand where we need to go, right? Because we don't need to look in the past. If you just have to learn from the past and say, well, this is what we're not going to do anymore, right? And we're going to try and educate
Yeah.
people, inform people.
Well, you just resume what the total problem is, right?
Right.
One, we rarely put in the other one's shoes. And second, we generally don't learn from our history.
Right.
So
Oh, yeah, it's terrible.
we keep
Well,
repeating the same
well,
mistakes, right?
history
So
gets tweaked, right? I mean,
yeah,
you don't even get good information what the accurate picture of history is, because
generally, if I extract the front page of a journal from the I don't know 1820, and I give it to you today without telling you that the article was written that time, you will find almost the same problems on the same things.
exactly.
So that tells us we haven't learned much.
I don't think we really have any choice, though. I think we really have to continue to move forward in a way that decentralizes control, right? I mean, that's kind of the secret behind it. You just decentralize control and allow people to grow organically together. We've never, as a culture, in any country been allowed to grow organically as a whole. It's always been bypassed by special interest groups that want to steer society from centralized control. I don't care which country you're talking about, right? And it controls the information, it controls the decisions that we make, it controls everything.
Yeah, I guess that having the ability of people participating in an easier way will start to change things. But people need to, get their, their long trousers, right? they need to grow.
Right.
And
Oh,
they need
personal
to
on a
mature.
personal basis, yeah.
They need to mature and take an attitude. I mean, you can't think somebody else will change things for you so you're better. You need to change yourself and then expect others to do so. Talking about somebody coming, a Messiah coming to change things. I mean,
That's just
Jesus
wishing
came
for a
to
future that's
change
never
things.
going to get here if you don't change yourself.
Again, yes. I mean, we need to change. I mean, the changes never came from the establishment. Never.
No,
Never in history. So expecting that, it would be ridiculous. But we are, as a society, doing that. We're expecting somebody from the establishment to change things. They won't.
they're not
We
going
need
to.
to change. We need to change. I mean, changes, regulatory changes are generally adapting the previous legislation to the new reality and technology. But that means that the technology broke the law first, right? So,
Right.
right. So, well, I guess we need to push them to the limits
You're right.
and for them to change.
Yeah. Yeah. They'll just use whatever technology that they can get away with to keep promoting their agenda for as long as we let them, right? We have to change to make sure that things change, or else nothing will change. I agree.
Correct.
Well, thanks, Eduardo. It was really nice meeting you. And, I'd love to talk to you again sometime.
Well, my pleasure. Always ready to have a good talk.
All right. Thanks. Have a great day.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.